gonna talk TaleSpin because it's got not only a great beat and some great like vocals, but that little like freestyle rap, not a freestyle, but like that little rap that they do at the end.
That breakdown.
I mean, that's fantastic, dude. I don't even know all the words they say. This it's like Twista lyrics. You're like, I think I got half. Yeah.
Spin it. Oh.
Happened in the 90s.
I just think Bill Paxton's cooler, and there's another Bill P that was trying to get jobs at the same time as him, and I just, I feel like they were in competition as two Bills in Hollywood. Bill Paxton against Bill Pullman. I'm taking the Pax every day of the week, Steve.
I mean, I can't be mad at that, man, but like you're kind of talking down on Bill Pullman, like his filmography as a whole. I mean, he was in Ruthless People, he was in Spaceballs,
He was
Sibling Rivalry, Sleepless in Seattle, A League of Their Own. I mean, you talked about that.
He was in A League of Their Own. That's crazy. I don't remember that. Maybe he was like a shitty husband or something.
And Casper, and I don't know if you've seen the Spy Games.
Bill Paxton though, Aliens, True Lies, Twister. He was Coconut Pete in Club Dread, which is legendary in my world. So shout out for that. He was in that movie Frailty, I believe, which was fantastic. Maybe not. I think he directed it. And that's also why I like him more, because he's a director and an actor, Steve. And you know what? Now that you're talking to me and we're live, I do think I shouldn't be denigrating one Bill to like raise up another.
That's all I'm saying.
We don't want the division, but rest in peace to Bill Paxton. I do think he needs to be held up more because he's no longer around. And I just feel like Bill Paxton had a little more sense of humor, Steve. So for that, he gets the Mad G seal of approval for Bill P's.
But he wasn't in Scary Movie 4, Matt.
What Pullman was?
The other Bill P was.
Yeah, but I don't think he was alive. I mean, if he was alive at that time, they might have went to him, Steve. He just wasn't available.
He was alive. Yeah, he was alive. It came out 2006. But
that's what I'm saying,
they're
Steve.
both great.
That's what I'm saying, though. He took a job from the late and the great. So sorry, Bill Pullman. Go back to Casper. Go do another Casper remake.
Can't forget about Independence Day as well.
That's
man.
legendary.
I'm not trying to divide, but hey, man, do you have a favorite Disney tune, like from the Afternoon series? Because I have one for sure.
I think Gummy Bears is technically in the Disney metaverse or whatever, so I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that from you.
I mean,
man.
TaleSpin's right there. We're gonna talk TaleSpin because it's got not only
Yeah.
a great beat and some great like vocals, but that little like freestyle rap, not a freestyle, but like that little rap that they do at the end.
That breakdown.
I mean, that's fantastic, dude. I don't even know all the words they say. It's like Twista lyrics. You're like, I think I got half. Yeah.
Spin it. It's, you know what it is? It's a combination of ad libs. It's like, I think you just did like a Jeezy ad lib, like, and then like throw in some Harry Belafonte. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking for that version of the TaleSpin song, Steve. We get a Jeezy remix.
Boos. Throw in a Rick Ross ad lib. Throw in all the ad libs. I think that's what they did. They went for some Harry Belafonte, some pre-Jeezy.
I mean, when I was watching it today, I tried to clock the lyrics. And I mean, when you write them down and read them, they make sense. It's not just like gobbledygook that they say that sounds good. it's
No.
fucking fantastic. So
With Disney, you take your time. They will make sure you take your time. We're not just going to put out some fuckery.
no, I mean that goes down in '90s lyricism with like Phil Lamar and stuff, or Phil Moore. I mean, just just saucy. It's smooth. So I don't know. I would say, but Gummy Bears to me, I don't know why that one just sticks. It's a little more like epic. I feel like it builds and it builds to a crescendo of Gummy Bears. It's got some shit to it. But what about you? What's your favorite Disney song?
Well, I was just asking like which cartoon, but
Oh, just the actual. I thought you meant tune, like
yeah,
song. I mean, I think it would have to be Chippendale's Rescue Rangers as far as like my favorite cartoon. Is DuckTales part of that?
yeah, that's a part of it.
Well, then we might have to go that. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I thought you would say Ducktales, man. I've always been a Darkwing Duck guy. The villains on the show, I thought they had like some personality to them. The theme song for that is pretty hard. And I always liked his intros. I am the terror that flaps in the night. And then it would always be something different every episode.
Let's get dangerous.
Darkwing Duck, better watch out, you bad boy.
Darkwing Duck. I mean, now I'm forgetting about that breakdown. So that's up there too. Why were
It's
the
epic as
themes
fuck.
so much better in the '90s?
Everything, like real life and animation, bro. Like they actually sat in the lab. It was a team of people who pinned these words together, man.
Like I sometimes think that the song for the show is better than the show in quality. Like the Perfect Strangers theme song will last in my head forever in a way that none of the episodes ever will.
Stand out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It really made the show, man. Because even if you line up all the TGIF shows, Perfect Strangers, the show, it might be at the bottom, but theme song wise, oh man, it's standing tall, head and
Yeah,
shoulders above the rest.
nice. I like how you did that too. That was really good. Yeah, I don't know. Like, and also if you think about it, like jingle and theme writer was a job as like a in the world of '90s like TV and stuff. Like Uncle Joey, Jesse, they that was
Yeah.
their job, and I'm pretty sure that was the job of other people on other shows too. It was just like it's like, oh, I'm a manager, I'm a jingle writer. It's like, okay, that's weird, but I don't know. It was just more important, Steve. It was a simpler time.
It was. And I think Jamie Foxx even did that on his show for a little minute. For like a couple of seasons, he was a jingle writer.
Radio DJ, jingle writer, these are things that aren't even possible anymore on a TV show. But in the '90s, that was the breadwinner, Steve. Go out, write a jingle to a kid show, live in a basement, get married, have some kids, move up to the attic. That's the life cycle of a jingle writer, Steve.
Hey, boys and girls, this is Steve G. Imagine What Happened in the 90s, a show where we talk about what happened in the 90s. So get out your Bushwhacker posters and your tapes of Bushwhack and show us love, 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 crazy love. And show us love, 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 crazy love. With me.
Is that a McKnight just drop off, Steve?
Yeah, and apparently, by different accounts, he's a despicable human being. Unfortunately,
Well, I was I'll wait till we talk about it, but there's just one moment that has cemented him as a forever legend in my life. But we'll talk about it, but I don't know. You'll have to shed some light on what you're talking about too, Steve.
oh yeah, we'll get to it, man. But today, my friend, we're talking all things August 8th in the 90s. Ho 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 ho. Starting off in 1990, New Attitude debuts on ABC. Based on the play Beauty Shop by Shelley Garrett, the series aired for 6 episodes during ABC's TGIF lineup on Fridays.
New Attitude. I don't even remember this shit.
Yeah, I have parts of my memory just reserved for shit like this, man. And I remember the 6 episodes. I remember watching the 6 episodes when they aired, because I had that kind of fucking time as a kid. And I remember Morris Day being in it, Lorenz Tate. This was a starring vehicle for a young Cheryl Lee Ralph, Phyllis Yvonne Stickney, who was the lawyer. She was the DA in New Jack City. She
Oh.
was the one Nino Brown was talking to at the end. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, Miss Hawkins.
Also, Lorenz Tate, notably, his name in the show was Chili D, Steve, which I do love.
Chili D. This kid was busy, man. I'm telling you, like, not too long after this, he would star in Royal Family with Red Fox. And Royal Family, that's the show where Red died on the set. People thought that he was doing one of his old, oh, I'm coming to join you, honey. But that was the real deal. And yeah, Lorenz Tate, he was the grandson on that, and he was Willie on Family Matters, man. So, like, yeah, this kicked off a couple people. Cheryl Lee Ralph, like I said, she has been in the game for a long time, and she's just now fully getting her crossover appeal flowers.
Jeez, she's been hot for. Well, she was born in '56, so do the math, Steve. I'm seeing a photo from her in 2012, 12 years ago. She looks exquisite.
Yeah, she was Miss wherever she's from. She's from Connecticut, but she was like in one of those pageants.
She was her father was a college professor. Oh, her mother was a Jamaican fashion designer and creator of the Kariba suit. If anyone knows what that is, I don't. But yeah, so she definitely came from some talented people, and her apparently, according to Wikipedia, DNA analysis indicates she descends partly from the Taikar people of Cameroon. That's in
Okay.
there. It's very specific, but she's awesome in Abbott Elementary. I didn't know about her till that show, and it's crazy to know that she's been working and hot for that long, Steve. Congratulations, Cheryl.
Yeah, man. It just goes to show like how long actors and actresses put in work just to finally, because she just got supporting actress, like best, like Emmy for best supporting actress. I want to say a couple years ago, and this aired in 1990. So this is decades of work, man, to finally get that moment of shine
I mean, it says she started her career in the '70s, so she's been doing this
in
for
this.
50 years, longer than we've
Yeah,
been
man.
alive. So listen up.
Y'all want to be stars, you got to put in that work. But that following year, 1991, TaleSpin airs their final episode 65, Flying Dupes. Baloo is asked to deliver a package, which is actually a bomb, to the Thembrian High Marshal. Meanwhile, Colonel Spigot is instructed to fly a plane but does not know how, and Baloo offers to teach him if he will complete the delivery.
Yeah, and you were saying, like, when we were picking episodes, you were like, this episode's banned forever. And I was taken
Yeah.
aback. I understand things are different, like in terms of what's PC and whatnot. But to know that, I mean, basically because this is portraying terrorism, uh, pretty shocking stuff on the last episode ever of TaleSpin.
Yeah, maybe they should get that Simpsons treatment. TaleSpin did it. TaleSpin did it.
I
Like,
mean, damn.
are y'all predicting something? Do y'all know something, writers of TaleSpin? Because apparently this was aired maybe a few times on Teen Disney or whatever like plus channel they had at the time, and it is available on the DVD. So it's if you have the DVD, it's available, and if you have the internet routes that I have, it's available as well.
Oh
But
yeah, it
yeah,
is.
man,
It's naughty. Um, yeah, I mean, and it's the real deal, Steve. I mean, the reason that they say they pulled it, I mean, it's portraying some shifty stuff here. We're talking false flag attacks. We're talking potential coups. We're talking assassination attempts here, and this is on
human
This is
trafficking.
on TaleSpin. So I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting that level of down and dirty, but I applaud it. If this was the moment, this they brought back X Men '97. Let's see a Tailspin '97 straight off the back of this, where it gets dark, Steve. Flow,
Yeah.
go back a little bit, let this plan actually succeed, and then Baloo's on the run, doing a lot of nose candy and stuff. This is the tailspin. It's a real tailspin at that point, Steve, and that's what I want to see. You know,
Who's the chick that his love interest on this show? Rebecca.
Rebecca, yeah, she's buttoned up and she's worried about this, Steve. She's the
Yeah.
boss, and they get a job, and she's like, you know what? I don't know this place. What's it called?
Thembria.
Thembria. Hard to get in, hard to get out. They're a little backwoods, but they take security very strictly. But they got a package that somebody wants delivered there. And Baloo's like, you know what? I'm cool with it. But Becky has some reservations, Steve. And also, Baloo's like, this thing's ticking, which in the 90s was the comical way that you knew something was a bomb, because every bomb had a actual ticking clock on it, like a Acme stick of dynamite with some wires and a clock on it.
All of them. They always did, man. But Baloo knows if he's able to make this delivery, he might become pilot of the year. And what's better than being pilot of the year?
Pablo will hire him again. He had that one misstep. He lost the package, but this will get him back in the good graces, Steve.
We find out that the guy who wants him to make that delivery is really like, his name is Wally the Warthog, I just call him.
But he comes in with some like Mission Impossible mask, because he does it. He's like a cat or something. I don't know. I forget what he is. But then he leaves and is like,
you always have to look out for those cartoon villains in the 90s too. They always got a mask.
It's very,
and
they're very realistic. This Scooby-Doo, the whole episode, it looked like one thing. They just pulled something off that looks like cloth, but apparently it was a fully functioning, amazing mask. And in this case, we see it's a warthog, and this warthog's from Thembria. And Thembria is basically, it seems like, let's call a spade here. It's like Russia, Steve. That's kind of what we're going for. The vibe's snowy. It looks shitty. Everyone talks like this. Unless they have a cat mask on. And then he's like, hey, take this cool package for me, guys. And then he leaves, is like, dumbass bear.
Complete absence of an accent at that point. Just the mask. It masks the accent.
He's a spy, dude, and he's also a spy. This is part of it. But they have this package, and Baloo basically he doesn't give a shit. The fame is what he cares about, and he's like, so we'll figure this out. I'll figure my way in. I have the gift of gab. I'm Baloo, so if I'll talk my way into the country. But then we cut to the country and see like an ad, like the main head honcho. I forget what they call the guy.
Colonel Spigot. Oh, you're talking about
High Marshal. So High Marshal's going in there, and this guy's he's like Stalin, Steve. He's talking about these people they need to know the rules, and he's got like this little turd of a warthog named Colonel Spigot, who sounds like the Princess Bride. The guy, it's inconceivable. That guy. Is that the guy? I don't know.
Wallace Shawn.
It sounds like him. But so High Marshal's going out. He's leaving the kingdom to Colonel Spigot. But he's got all these mandates. He's going to shoot people if they're not up to snuff. They got to do some like quality control on the employees. Maybe even, and then Colonel Spigot's like, yeah, we should make some of these people learn how to fly or like test their flight capabilities. All this being said is just, he's creating more work for himself. The High Marshal is willing to shoot anybody that fails this test, which in and of itself is crazy, because we're watching a Disney cartoon, and the villain of this episode's like, if you don't do what I say, I'll shoot you in the head. That's pretty crazy.
Straight up.
That's baller, but it's pretty thugged out, Steve.
Disney was wilding out in the 90s, man. And we're going to have Spigot test the plane out himself. That's what the High Marshal wants. I want everybody to test this out. But we find out Spigot can't even fly. So that's where Baloo chimes in, and he's like, you know what? I need to get this package through Spigot and his men, and he doesn't know how to fly. I'm a flying ass motherfucker. I'm Baloo. Shit.
I'll teach you.
About to be pilot. Yeah, I'm about to be pilot of the year, by the way. So I got this, man. Don't worry about anything.
And assisting Baloo and just connecting with Colonel Spigot in this way is another warthog who's like Colonel Spigot's underling. What's his name? Dummy? It,
I didn't get his
Slowy?
name, but he's voiced by Lorenzo Music, the OG, who was the voice of Bill Murray's character from Ghostbusters and the OG Garfield.
That I knew it sounded so familiar. It's definitely Garfield's
Yeah.
voice, but he's like Baloo's boy. They hung out, they drank some shit over at some, airplane bar or something.
Ivans.
Yeah, and Baloo's like, dude, help me out. And this guy kind of gets Baloo in, connected with Spigot, and Baloo basically arranges. He's like, look, I got to go to the High Marshal's vacation spot that he's at. You're going to get me there. And the reason you're going to do that is because I'm going to teach you how to fly. So Spigot agrees to this. But I got to say, Colonel Spigot got a bad attitude this whole time. The guy's cocky as all hell. He's got little man syndrome because he's small. And apparently he's prone to accidents because even like his underlings, like, you're going to let him fly? He crashed his car like 10 times today. So it doesn't look good, Steve.
He doesn't even want to buckle up. He's like, Baloo, what do you think? You think I'm just going to crash the plane? Get out of here. And then he just takes off.
Well, and he can't even
Baloo,
he can't reach the pedals, Steve. So they got to like figure that out. Put some like suction, some plungers on his feet. And you're right. He's like, everyone's getting the plane set up. This guy turns it on and takes off. Baloo's riding the wings, Steve. I mean, I'd be pissed. Baloo takes it in stride, but I'd start beating the shit out of Squiggy or whatever his name is.
And just as like they're about to take off, Baloo's able to like make a safe landing, somewhat of a safe landing, and he stops him like, dude, you are tripping. And like he eventually takes over himself because he can't trust Spigot behind that steering wheel.
Well, and doesn't he at one point just like rig a crowbar in there so it's it's on like some sort of manufactured autopilot? He's like, man, you're really killing it. Smooth as ice here, Spigot. Nice job. But yeah, Baloo. And I also gotta say, I get you're like trying to pull something off here. Way too cool with somebody taking your plane for a joyride and almost. I mean, he crashes it, Steve. I know you said he landed it, but it was a crashed landing. It
was a crash landing. Yeah.
So
who admittedly doesn't know how to fly.
Well, Baloo's apparently a very patient teacher. I wish my dad was this patient when I was learning how to drive. But. They're in the air. Him, Colonel Spigot, whatever the other, like the dumb guy's name is. But we keep seeing the other guy, this like other warthog who's trying to initiate this thing. I didn't realize what was happening because he gets this package to like get going to this High Marshal, right? And he arranges that. So he's trying to get that package with the bomb there. But then he's trying to then look like he's trying to stop that package from getting to the High Marshal as well, correct? Like he's trying to basically create a ruse where he hasn't done it. It's going to look like Baloo did some crazy crime. But the guy who gave the package to Baloo is actually trying to pull this off, I think, to usurp power from the High Marshal, if I'm not mistaken.
It was confusing, and it doesn't help that Wally, the warthog, he kind of resembles Spigot.
Yeah.
So, like, I was losing track that way, too, because it's like, oh, that's Spigot. Oh, no, that's the other guy, the rogue Five Nights at Freddy's mask guy.
Because he's constantly, like, behind them, like, yo, there's a bomb in that package and stuff, and they're always missing each other. Like, eventually they land because Spigot wants to show off to his boys. He's a cocky son of a bitch. So he's like, look, I know you need to have this package there by 3, but Ivan's, this little hangout I know of with all the pilots, it's like the Top Gun bar. Ivan's, they got a 3 o'clock show with some dancing girls, and I want the boys to see me fly in, and then I want to see some TNA, and then we can get to your little package thing. We'll figure that out. So they landed Ivan's, Steve. And Ivan's, it's no dusk till dawn. It's no titty
Yeah,
twister.
it's basically just Spigot capping to a bunch of pilots. Like, yeah, I did this, I did that in the third, and bro, you don't even know how to fly yet. And Baloo wants to get him out of there. Like, hey, we got to make it to Embria and make sure this package is delivered. It's like, well, no, man, I still got to see the titties. I came here for the titties and these topped off beers.
I mean, the wings were good, but the titties are why I came here, Baloo. So Baloo and the other guy are like, look, we got to get this dude out of here. They get into drag and create their own little TNA show where they, they're just like, hey, everyone, hey, and they're twerking in some sort of like tropical getup, which is weird because this is a snowy place, Steve. I would have thought they had more like bearskin costumes. It's something like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Something the belly dancers would wear or something. I don't know. Like, and they did all this to appease a short little warthog.
Who's totally into it too. Colonel's
it.
ready to go. He's like, oh, holy, this is inconceivable. Look at these titties.
Yeah.
They're inconceivable. So Baloo and the other guy, in the guise of being these hot chicks, he's like, let me take you on my plane. And they're like, ooh, I've never been on a real plane before. So this guy's thinking he's going to smang in Baloo's plane too, Steve.
Yeah,
Three-way.
man. And now we're crossing over into human trafficking territory. And like those other pilots, either they're really dumb and naive or they just don't care about Colonel Spigot because no one pulled him to the side and is like, hey man, I think that's the bear from Jungle Book.
That's a dude.
Yeah. Who was a dude, by the way?
But now we're back in the plains, Steve. And Colonel Spigot thinks he's going to have a three-way. I think he also was cool with the fact that he left two of his boys in the bar because he thought he just went on the plane with these two hotties, which is pretty cool. I just got to say, just like in terms of that, he thought he was going to get laid, which, we're all willing to do some crazy stuff to do from time to time.
Fuck my boys, I need some bear tail.
They basically, he locks them in like the back of the plane for whatever reason, I guess. I don't remember why that happened, but
to make sure they don't escape. I don't know, man. Like, so now we're in kidnapping, human trafficking. Throw on the charges.
And Baloo's like, look, pull those fake titties out. We got to get into there and like stop this guy from crashing my plane. So Baloo's surfing the top of a plane, his plane, while they're being chased by the other guy that's trying to blow everybody up. So they're riding the plane. Colonel Spigot's flying this thing like a madman, Steve. He's pulling he creates his own move called the Colonel Spigot something. I forget what it was. Almost kills Baloo and the other guy. Baloo and the other guy almost take actual bullets that are shot at them, which I love to see in a cartoon. I was like, man, they're really going for it here.
There is that. They're definitely getting shot at. And they think a bomb is about to drop on them, but no, it's just a load of baloney.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, I think at somewhere at the beginning of this, they made fun of this country because they're like kind of a joke militarily. So they drop a big old thing of bologna on the plane, no bread, which is rude. They're dropping like tubs, like bathtubs out of the plane as well. They're just dropping garbage out of the plane. That's their bomb, Steve.
Yeah, they're messy. And Baloo, he returns and takes over the steering wheel. Eventually they do a nosedive. It has another like terrible crash landing. So they're landed though. And the box, he's trying to deliver that. And I think this is when Wally pops in and he's like, we've got to stop that bomb.
Yeah, because Colonel Spigot's taken the present into his boss's vacation home. Baloo somehow like cons him into doing that because he's like, I conned this guy even taking the fucking present in. I'm going to look like his G here, and I don't even have to take any guff from whoever this other guy is. They get it in there. The other guy runs in. Is like, that's a bomb. high marshal's like, what is going on here, bomb, what and some, like, I think Baloo is the guy who throws the bomb out of a window or something. Like, he basically saves everyone's life, but it's convoluted. And then the warthogs guys, you gotta, it's very hard. Like Steve said, it was hard to figure out exactly what was going on.
Well, he throws the present out, and then a dog, because at some point they, like, one of them befriends a dog, and that dog, he brings the gift back. He returns the gift, and like right when he returns the gift, that's when Wally is standing in front of it, and it just explodes.
Maguba! And it doesn't kill anyone. The bomb really, it was just a dud, Steve. But they figure out who is actually to blame for this. Baloo kind of looks like a hero, I guess, because he kind of helped out in all this. And I think Colonel Spigot learned how to fly a plane, Steve, because he gets the credit for the life save from the High Marshal. The High Marshal's like, Spigot, you are my best man. Take me to my barbershop appointment, which isn't down the street. They got to hop in a plane. So Spigot gets him up in a plane again. And you can tell, I mean, maybe it's like, when you're first learning how to drive a car, Steve, there's a couple times where you go out there that you shouldn't be. And Spigot, he's working with a learner's permit still,
Basically, yeah.
So he might, I mean, from what we see at the end of this episode, he's killed himself in the High Marshal because that plane's taking a nosedive into some mountains. So
again, another series that ends with no closure. This is how we just drop off. This is where we just land.
Well, Baloo's a fucking international criminal, Steve. You're telling me he's got a delivery business? They don't look in the boxes? I mean, you could be delivering like you said, he could be human trafficking this whole series. We don't know. He's not checking anything.
Transporting bodies. We're on to you, Baloo.
Fuck.
That following year, 1992, Howard Stern, they're airing their final episode, The Sternlywed Game.
Do you know what I would do to you? Yeah, we've all seen the Newlywed Game. This is the Sternlywed Game, where Howard Stern and his wife Allison at the time were competing against other workers and their wives, respectively, or girlfriends, to see who knows their wife the best, or who's the best couple, basically.
And then we have Stuttering John and production coordinator Karen Harris, Howard and Allison Stern, senior producer Dan Foreman and his wife Robin, and Fred Norris and his girlfriend, also named Allison Furman.
Yeah. Stuttering John will be lucky to get out of this episode in a relationship, but Robin's the host. She's single at this time and ready to mingle, Steve. So, that's an unfortunate thing.
Yeah. I think that she was been single like the whole length of this show. Did she ever have a man?
I think it's kind of been a rotating door of men, Steve. Maybe she is just secretive about it. I don't know. I don't remember a guy though. Maybe she had a boyfriend or something, but Howard always rib her about like taking in the butt and stuff. So I don't know. I thought she had a guy doing that. Maybe not.
I would have signed up at the age of 15.
Hell yeah.
But Howard has a vendetta. He wants to prove to everyone that he has the best relationship on the show.
And him and Allison do, from what you would assume they do, because in the movie Private Parts, the last line of that movie is, I love Allison. I love Allison. That's his thing. And in this, he's like, who loves somebody more than me and my wife? And he starts like, they start doing weird tongue kissing and stuff. Allison seems kind of like she's a little demure about things, but she had a good sense of humor about it, I thought.
Yeah, she's rolling with it. She knows who she married.
I think everybody honestly had a good sense of humor in this, because this is done to take the piss. Howard Stern's an open book anyway. He's done the Eminem thing, or like the bully thing, where he said everything that somebody's going to say to embarrass him. So this means nothing to him. But to get like, especially that Dan guy and his wife, I mean, these are just normal people that are now on the Howard Stern show. I'd be terrified.
And considering he's the senior producer, like, he can make some shit shake. But he's being a good sport about it. Like I like how Dan's able to take a joke. Basically, like he's somebody's boss, but he's not all like you can't say that about me.
Yeah.
They're talking about him having a small package. They're making crude sketches of him, and he's just rolling with the punches, man. Shout out to Dan.
I love Dan. I think this guy gives it's just as like what I would envision myself being in the Howard Stern show. Just some nerdy guy that works there that just loves the being in the mix. This is probably a dream for him, honestly. He's been like producing and directing this show. Now he gets to be on it. You know, he gets to be part of the Three Ring Circus.
What an honor. And we find out that Stuttering John and Karen, they hid their relationship for 11 months. And, because they always say you don't date the help, you don't marry the help. And they did just that. And look at where they are now on the Sternlywed
You made it.
Game.
You guys made it. You made it.
And Fred and his version of Allison, they called off their engagement, or she did, but nothing was wrong. Apparently, they're not ready.
Yeah, and they dig into that for a second, but we don't get any clear explanation. Howard's like, what is it? Because he's from Mars? You know, he just keeps like digging on him. But I love Fred. Fred's one of my favorite guys. Is on the Howard Stern staff, and he's from the OG crew, Steve. If you watch the movie, you know they got Fred as he's like a fucking mercenary back in the day that they pulled in because he was so talented. So
Howard, him and Robin.
yeah,
right?
hell yeah, he's the sound guy. You know, he'll throw a couple of pops in there. He can get some funny little sound effects that throw into the show, or all those little like what a piece of ass. Like he does all that stuff too. So I love that. And I just love the idea. Like, what I didn't think about this would be how embarrassing it would be just to be like the person who's not connected to the show, like the wives or whatever, where they just are like, well, I guess I blew him on a ride or whatever. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah, they're pretty open than more so than I expect, man. And they have the ladies leave the set first, and Robin asked the guys, "How many times do you make Whoopi a week?" Stuttering John said 7 times. Howard said once. Dan said 3 times, and Fred said 2 times. And then the next question was, "What sexual act would you do, but the wife won't?" John says anal. Howard says uses his hand on the butt. Dan and Fred Norris says the third. They all basically said anal.
Well, no, Dan just wanted to fuck dog. He said from behind. So, you know, he's like, he's also made it a point to be like, and not in the butt. So, you know, you just can't hit it from the back, Steve. So I respect that, Dan. You know, he's out here, but everyone else just wanted a piece of the butt in one way or the other. I mean, Howard, I guess, just wanted a little digital fun, but.
Yeah, digital underground. And the next question is, how many sets of male genitals?
That's perfect, Steve.
How many sets of male genitals has your mate seen? John says 3. Howard says 9. Dan says 5. Fred says more than I know about, but I'll say 10.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. Like, what guy wants to know? Like, I don't care. Keep it to yourself.
I mean, I don't care normally. I would never ask this, but in the realm of this is hilarious. To ask the guy how much you think the chick has. I mean, and to hear the reactions, especially Fred's whenever they get to that one. And she's like, well, he knows about, we'll say 10. And Fred's like, Jesus, there's more than that.
Even she says, yeah. Well, the ones he knows about.
So that's what I like. You know, we're learning some truths here. But yeah, I like Stuttering. Stuttering John has to play this game because he is in a new relationship, and his wife seems to be, his girlfriend seems to be one that's getting a little more irritated with this, or embarrassed, I guess you could say.
Considering nobody is supposed to know about dating the help, and now we cut to Howard, and he's with Pamela, and they're doing a promo for Kenwood Stereo from The Wiz. And apparently Pamela has fed the homeless with her breasts, fed them potato chips.
And he's like, where does the hot dog come out? Like,
Yeah, how do
dude, but I gotta say, Howard Stern knows how to do an ad like no other. This is not like there's really no ad here. It's literally live and in living color. There's a stereo receiver with no speakers on a stand, and then a hot woman just like he's like and he's like, oh, and she's also natural. She doesn't take hormones to make her breast big, or she doesn't do implants. She's taking
yeah,
hormones to make them enlarge the natural way, Stephen. You know, I'll buy a Kenwood if I had the money, Steve.
yeah. And everything they said had nothing to do with a Kenwood stereo. It wasn't up until like the end where he's like naming off all of its different things, like
AI. It had AI in it, Steve, somehow.
Yeah. And so when the girls get back, Howard's answer is confirmed. They only do the whoopee one time. Dan and his wife, they do it 3 times. Fred and his ex-fiance or fiance 4 times. And Stuttering John, they said 4 times. I think he said 7, but she said 4.
Yeah, she went down. She went under the estimate. Yeah, Stuttering John's really he highballs a lot of this. I feel like to make himself look cool. It's like, yeah, we bang 7 times a week. It's whatever.
Gotta do everything you can.
Yeah, 7 times a week.
12 inches.
What was the second question though?
What would your partner not do?
Yeah, and what is because Stuttering John? She said just oral. I feel like
it was oral, yeah. And then Dan's, it was the same deal, oral. Fred's, she said Greek style, which I guess means doing it in the butt. And Howard's was anal.
Yeah, I mean, if Howard's wife doesn't know these answers, I mean, for God's sake, are you listening to the show? Come on.
Yeah. And I think at this point they were together for 14 years. And in the final one, how many sets of genitals has your mate seen? For Stuttering John, it was 3. That's what Karen said. Howard's Allison says 10. Dan's wife says 5. And Fred's girlfriend says he only knows about the 10. And I think she says 10.
And Fred's like, Jesus Christ, what is the real number here? So, you know, I feel like they kind of knew there was some good answers here. Dan's really walked away they really walked away on this one, the winners, because they knew everything. They're close, Dan and his wife, which we'll find out later. His wife's very accommodating, Steve, especially on trains.
And now the guys leave and they ask the girls, what is the first thing a man does after making whoopee? Allison says goes to sleep. Robin says goes to the bathroom. Fred's Allison says he cleans up, and Karen says go to sleep. And then Robin asks, like, how big is their maleness?
Yeah, this is the bonus question, Steve. What would they say is the size of their maleness? Maleness? You can't even say penis on TV at this point?
I guess not.
This is what's the size of your maleness? If somebody ever said that to me, just in conversation, even if it was like in a sexual situation where some chick's like, "Ooh, what size is your maleness?" I'd be like, "What the fuck?
Yeah,
what? Are you an alien that is hiding in a human body? Why'd you say it like that?
A writer for the Bazaar or some shit?
What's the size of your maleness?" But you know, I feel like this is the thing here. You don't want to like go crazy and then your wife just fucking cuts you at the knees and just like slits your throat on live air. So you really got to be careful with this answer. You can be like, oh, she'd say 12. You know?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to lowball.
You don't want to be like, she'll say 4 conservatively. Like, no matter what, you're basically fucked. Unless it's just a big number, Steve.
But Dan's wife says he's hung 5 inches.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying, though. He wants to throw her back out from behind with that 5 inches, Steve. So Dan, they seem happy, you know. But I think Dan said 7. So a little bit of a weird body dysmorphia, I think, going on in Dan's head. He thinks he's packing a 7-incher and it's 5, and that's a nice number. So it's got to be probably a half inch to an inch smaller than what she's saying. You know what I'm saying, Steve?
Well, Fred's Allison hooked him up because she said 7 inches.
Yeah, and he was like maybe 5.
Yeah, 6.5 maybe. And Karen, she says Stuttering John has 6, and Howard's Allen says 6. And the next question is, what is the single wildest thing your mate has said to you, or has done?
Have you done
And Robin, that you've done with each other yet? And Robin says, I don't know if I can say it. And then she was just like, I did it beep 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 on a train.
Yeah, I mean, she did something on a train. And also the sign that she writes, apparently you can't write blowjob and show that word on national TV. So that also got visibly beeped, whatever you want to call that. They pixelated that out. But shout out to Dan getting a fucking head on a train, Steve. That's pretty fucking baller.
Yeah, that's another obsolete thing that you might not have an opportunity to do these days.
When they say
like,
train, I mean, they're in New York. Do you think they're talking subway, or are we talking like an Amtrak out to like some nice train or a subway train?
Oh, we're talking frontier town. No, we can't. No, New NY, that doesn't count. That's their means of transpo. Everybody's getting head at some point. You live there long enough.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. So basically, they're in like an amusement park train, just a small one in the back, sitting in little kid seats, and he's just getting blown. That's
Oregon Trail.
Salute to Dan, man. That's even cooler. That's pretty awesome. This is pretty fucking dope. We get to Stuttering John. And again, he's in a new relationship. So he's like, what can I say here? And everyone's like, you have to say something. Because he goes like 30 seconds and is like trying to figure out how to word this. And her answer was that they had sex during a gig, I think. Like, meaning, he did a performance or something and they had sex in the arena. Stuttering John starts explaining his, and he's like, she masturbated in front of me and something. I don't even know what the rest of it was, because she's like, no. Have you ever been in this situation where somebody's about to like expose a lie that you've told? So in order for that to not happen, you start trying to talk as loudly as you can.
Man, like I was saying the other day,
Hey,
I was saying to him, yeah, man, that was crazy, man. Yeah,
that's basically what happens here, Steve. Like, we hear something, but Stuttering John's little lady is not too happy that he revealed that. Whatever it was, I guess she was diddling herself, that's pretty cool too, honestly.
And then Howard's, when it's their turn, he says it's either having sex on the floor while the house was being built, or banging her in the bathroom. And I think it was having sex on the sink or something.
Yeah, having sex in a sink was, I think, what she said. And he said having sex in a bathroom, which I guess was the same exact thing. But the judges for this are very strict. They don't get points for this. The previous round, somebody's like thing they did after sex was clean up. And I think Fred said he goes to get like Kleenexes, and they didn't even give him points for that. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was Dan's, because his answer was like going to get tissue, but his wife said goes to the bathroom. It was like, well, dude, I go to the bathroom to get the tissue.
Gotta wipe up, man. This is Dan talking to you. Straight laced Dan over here. I gotta clean up so I can put that suit on. Yeah, exactly. I can't walk around with cum all over my tummy. So Howard's banging in a sink. Stuttering John's getting fucked at a gig, I guess, which I don't know. I can't tell if like what it would be like to walk in on Stuttering John. He doesn't look that crazy here. Honestly, you wouldn't even notice the stuttering at that point. He's just in ecstasy, you know?
Yeah. and like the bonus question was how many times per session have you done the whoopee? I've always hated that term. That's such a game show term for sex.
Whoopee.
Whoopee. How many times do you make whoopee?
How many times
But
have you made whoopee? Hey.
I found it interesting that Karen and Stuttering John, their answers matched 5 times.
In one
You
sesh? I mean, dude, I've maybe done
see,
3
bro.
at my most
Maybe
virile in my like early 20s, Steve. We're
early
talking,
20s, late teens
yeah, when it was just when
with some
everything was
Captain
new,
Morgan.
when everything was just new and
Yeah,
beautiful. 5?
5, bro.
Jesus, dude. Your dick would have been fucking like scabbed over. You rubbed that thing raw, but salute to both of them. You're just out here fucking to completion 5 times. What
5
came out the
times.
5th time? Dust? A sound?
Like you're a legend, bro. Stuttering John, I salute.
Yeah, dude. For that alone, you can fucking, you're in the Hall of Fame. You're in the Bro Hall of Fame, dude.
And I think Howard's team and Dan, the senior producer, they tied at the end. I want to say they both had like 70. So they basically win a session with Dr. Ruth,
Yeah.
who also passed.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Like there's a thing with like celebrities showing up on Howard and recently passing around the time we talk
Yeah,
about
but
it.
they were going to, I mean, I love that she would be on the Howard Stern show. That shows you how cool Dr. Ruth is. Because you'd feel like somebody like that, especially back in the day, is like, this is a serious career for me. I'm not going to have you make jokes about this. But she had a great sense of humor. And she was on fucking goddamn Quantum Leap, Steve. Let us
Quantum Leap.
not forget about that.
An OG, man. And back to the promo, Howard is with Bonnie, who's in a rock band. She's got a cool little nose ring, and she's here with another Snapple ad. I like Bonnie.
Yeah, she has a cool, like, I don't know. I feel like she would be a hot, like, 90s chick, Steve. She might have had, like, a little flannel wrapped around her waist, a little, like, tank top. She's got a nose ring. So that checks a box. She looks like she smokes cigarettes too, for sure, which I loved back in the day.
Unfiltered, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me blow you. But she's definitely she loves a nice Snapple peach, and she's a peach, Steve.
That she is, man. And now we get to the clips that got clipped from the Howard Stern show. Like you had to be very lewd to get clipped from the Howard Stern show. Like, how bad were these clips?
Well, the first one they show is Howard in full blackface. So there was that. There's one where they agree to get a blind guy laid. And we see one of the most creepiest things where, like, one of the footages they shot was like a side shot, and you see like her touching him. It's it's very like
how far did this go? Like, yeah, that should have made TV. And Black Jeopardy, which they eventually did. I think that was an episode that we covered, but this was with different contestants.
And they said it was just too racist to show, which is like, wow, that's saying a lot.
Yeah, they said for this one the staging was bad, but the contestants were horrible. And now they cut back to Bonnie, and she's with her pet rat, and it's a dial-a-mattress advertisement called 1-800-mattress. I wonder if that number is still valid.
Well, Bonnie's showing off this one like posturepedic thing with this rat, and the rat's at one point I thought it crawled inside of her, Steve. I think everybody did, the way the camera was like angled. But here's where what we just said before about her being a hot 90s chick. Now she's a gross rat chick. And that's where I got to pull the plug, and I'm out. So I'm out.
No water trash for you. And back to the Howard and the gang. He mentions that this is the last show of the season, quite possibly the last show ever. And he does like a little census, a poll of the crowd. How many of you think this is going to be the last show ever? Everybody raises their hand. Will anyone need a job after this? Everyone raises their hand because motherfuckers need jobs.
Gary Delabate, he's in the mix. He wants that job. He kept his job, Steve. So some people probably walked away here pissed. But what a great show Howard Stern put on in the early '90s or whatever it went to, but a precursor to the E Show that we all knew and loved. But this was so much more wild than the E Show because I don't know what the rules and regulations that whatever New Jersey show or Rochester, New York station put this on, but I
Yeah.
mean, this is some spicy stuff. I would have loved this as a kid.
Yeah, I wish it would have lasted longer, man. But they had to stop it because it was becoming overwhelming to keep up with this show on a weekly basis, and they were still doing their radio show on a weekly a weekday basis, like Monday through Friday, man. So, it just goes to show, man. You got to go the extra mile, and Howard he definitely went the extra mile. But I can't leave out the handicap beat the clock, and that they said that was cruel and pathetic. And I totally understand why they had to clip that.
They showed
It's
5 seconds of footage of that, and that was enough. The guy with one leg leaning under the thing, I died, Steve.
Yeah.
And I almost forgot about this, but a celebrity from a previous episode that we saw, Underdog Girl.
Underdog.
One of the
Yeah.
producers actually filmed a biography with her, and the clip that we got to see was her just like kind of like going into like the spiral of trying to give a loose orange to a producer, talking about how she doesn't like oranges, and
Not in their original form, only when they're orange juice.
well, I can cut it for you. I mean, you can make juice yourself. I'll cut it. No, I just wanted you to have it. It was very bizarre, Steve. But she had a house. I mean, she had a domicile that she was living in that looked pretty extensive. So Underdog Girl was maybe on the dole from the government. I don't. Maybe she gets a government check, but she's got an apartment. Steve, you could go back and smash in the apartment and hang out. You know.
Yeah, I got a feeling she collects checks, man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe, but maybe she's somebody's paying her for all this underdog work that she's doing.
Maybe she has a cult following at this point. I mean, Whack Packers, if you do your business right, hey man, you could be a household name.
And I also want to shout out to Ralph, who's in like the audience of employees in this end of the show. Ralph was
Yeah.
Howard Stern's stylist. He might even be dead actually for now, I
He
believe.
just passed away. Yeah,
I
Ralph Shirella.
Okay, so I don't want to speak ill of the dead. Never liked Ralph once. He's annoying, and I hated him when we ever got to see him on the show. Steve, he looked like such a douche.
I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but I hated Ralph. I hated him with a passion. I hated his face. I hate what he looked like. I
You
always thought
saw
was
what he
stupid.
like. He's the stylist, right?
He's the
And
stylist.
you
yeah.
see what Howard Stern looks like, a guy who got like disowned from a biker gang for being too much of a geek. He looks like a bizarre, and that he stole the hat, which was the most bizarre part of the outfit from Ralph, Steve. So I don't know. I just always thought that guy was creepy as fuck, and I thought it was hilarious that he was just like Howard Stern's stylist his whole career, basically. He came
His
up
whole
with it.
career. And I never thought he had the credentials to be someone's stylist. R.I.P. to Ralph, though. R.I.P.
I mean, for sure. I mean, he's a celebrity. We know Ralph for obviously because we watch the show so much. But every time he was on it, I loved the episodes. There was a lot of them where Howard Stern would just, when he wanted to really dig into somebody, Ralph got on the end of that. He got in the crosshairs a couple of times, and I love that.
Often.
I think Gary and him also had a huge feud. I don't think Gary Delabate liked him too much either. I think there was a lot of disrespect.
Yeah. I mean, Gary seems to be the middleman for some of Howard's beefs. But yeah, man. Just that collective. I don't know if that was done by design, but all of the little intricate like beefs and dynamics amongst everyone, man, because there was a rift between Jackie and Robin for a while. And like that made for entertaining radio.
Yeah, I mean Jackie and Fred got in it. It was because they're around each other all the time. So I think there's part of that, but I think they also realized that's good content. When Howard comes in hot and just starts just flaming somebody on the staff, you love that. there was another guy like KC that was like sort of a guy later on,
Casey.
and he got it in the mix too because he was kind of like a douchey. I think he was like a stock bro that they hired. Like he kind of was just like a bro in New York City. But yeah, I think Howard realized like early on that the episodes where he did that, I'm sure they had some way to view the ratings. He's like, when I started going at Gary like this, look at this.
He's a genius like that,
Oh
man.
yeah.
Like, you know what? I'm gonna really lean into it on some WWE type of shit, on some Vince McMahon. You know, I because even when Vince would do stuff like this, man, blur that line of reality. It's like we don't know if it's real, if it's fake, but we're watching to see.
Well, I think it was real for sure.
With Howard, yeah, it was more so real, man. But that same day, 1992, during the Guns N' Roses Metallica Stadium tour, Metallica frontman James Hetfield is burned by pyrotechnics, and this is during the concert while they're playing "Fade to Black." Um, I remember hearing about this. My fandom at the time hadn't fully kicked in for either band, but this is epic, dude. You got Guns N' Roses and Metallica.
This whole tour seemed like it was just shot with a bunch of bullshit, but this being probably the biggest. So they're in the middle of a show. Hetfield takes some sort of pyro to the face, I believe. They have to
Yeah,
leave, and this is in Montreal, I believe.
at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal.
And
Yeah.
so they because they have an injury, they can't perform. So they're off. They have to make a bunch of apologies after the fact. Guns N' Roses is forced to come on early, but it takes them like 2 hours to get on the stage. They put on some kind of fucked up show that nobody liked. I think Axl Rose said he had like vocal cord issues or something.
And there were audio issues, like they hadn't fully rigged up all their
Yeah,
gear properly.
but they leave too. Axl Rose gets pissy. They leave the stage, and the show's over. And there's a significant riot.
There were cop cars being tipped over. There were bonfires set in the Olympic Stadium on that day, like several bonfires within the stadium. They said that the damages cost in upwards of 600,000.
Yeah, and also Faith No More was on this tour. I just thought this was hilarious because I read the Wikipedia, but they actually left the tour later on, citing a beef with Guns N' Roses. I guess they had like a beef with them and Axl Rose's behavior and stuff. But Mike Patton, who I think is the lead singer of Faith No More, apparently
Yeah.
urinated on Axl Rose's equipment as like a protest because the guy was such a cunt, and then he got fired off the tour because of that.
See, and that's what makes it hard to be a GNR fan, man. Like you always hear about these beefs that Axel had, rubbing people the wrong way. I was more of a Slash guy. I think Slash is one of the coolest rock and rollers of all time. He doesn't say shit, just wears his big steampunk hat with a cigarette hanging out his mouth, and he fucking wails on some guitar tunes.
Yeah, dude. I think Axel was just like a constant. He was just too big for his britches. I think at some point in this tour, like because of the shit that was going on with him, because he did have to take a break because of his vocal cords and stuff. I think they made the
Right.
guy Duff McKagan actually sing the vocals, which I wonder what
Yeah.
that was like. I'm sure he doesn't have the pipes of an Axl Rose for sure, but man, that's crazy though. You call a show off like that, riot. I mean, that's a bitch. But shout out to James Hetfield, dude. That guy took a fucking pyro to the face, and then they made it up. They did a couple of cheap shows for Montreal after this.
Yeah, and still continued making albums, man, because pyrotechnics, you hear stories about them from from like different wrestlers where they malfunction. I think there was a clip where Undertaker was coming down the aisle one time and the shit malfunctioned on one of his like long trench jackets, and he basically had to like kind of hop out of character for a second and just throw that shit off. Like, oh,
Yeah, dude. I mean, did Michael Jackson catch one to the head? And set his whole
yep.
fucking head on fire. So what the fuck were the pyro guys doing in the 90s, guys? You guys got to step it up here. Fuck.
On that same day in 92, that original U.S. Dream Team wins the basketball gold at Barcelona Olympics 117-85 over Croatia. And I think Croatia, that featured a young Tony Kukoc, man. We've talked about this team before. In my opinion, the greatest sports team ever assembled. But man, like we've talked about them ad nauseum. I just can't talk about them enough. They're the
It's
greatest.
a dream team, Steve. It's the real dream team. You can't. I don't. You shouldn't even be able to say it after this. I get there's a team now filled with stars that's playing in the Olympics as we talk about this, but this was a
Yeah.
thing, dude. This was like the fucking Illuminati of basketball just coalescing. And I mean, who could have stopped this tidal wave of talent, Steve?
Like full of household names. Like you're getting all of the people who were great at what they did, the best shooters, the best scorers, some of the best defenders.
Who was the
I mean,
worst guy on the dream team? I'm saying Christian Leitner.
You have to say Christian Leitner. I mean, he's the only one that's not in the Hall of Fame by himself. Like all the other guys, they're individually inducted and the team is inducted. Like they inducted the Dream Team as a team a couple years ago.
That's cool.
Yeah, but all of those guys from Chris Mullin, Clyde Drexler, David Robinson, MJ, Barkley, John Stockton, Malone, all those guys, Ewing, Pippen, they're all individually in there. But Leitner, and he didn't even have a horrible professional career. It's just because of what people's expectations were that I think they say he's a flop, because he had at least one All-Star year, I think, with the Hawks, with the Atlanta Hawks. He spent a big portion of his career in Minnesota. But this is the guy who won back-to-back championships with Duke, which at the time that was unprecedented, going back-to-back in college basketball. So you would think this guy's going to be the next Larry Bird, or hell, even the next Bill Walton. Yeah, none of that came to fruition, man.
But he still made this team. That's a feather in the cap, no matter what. That must have been wild, dude, to be these other teams that have to play in the Olympics against them. It's like, all right, guys, let's just do our best out here.
So third, that's decent, right?
Yeah.
We still get a medal.
Yeah. Who's covering Mike? Okay. We're gonna double team him. Who? Oh shit.
What about the fat bald guy?
Yeah. What about Larry Bird? What about? Oh, god damn it! I mean, it's crazy that it just is wild when you think about it, because just like you said, it was like a Hall of Fame All-Star team before they actually got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Like the greatness was it was happening in front of your eyes. It wasn't something that you just got to talk about after the fact, like we're doing now. But it should also say something that even now, 30 years later or whatever it is, still the greatest collection of talent ever. And really, I think it is ever. I don't think you can even argue that.
Hands down, man. And 3 years later, in 1995, Brian McKnight releases I Remember You. And I just remember crazy love, 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 crazy love.
That was in a movie that I hated, like some romance comedy. But, you mentioned Brian McKnight might have some like shadiness to him. But in my mind, he will always be remembered for singing background vocals for Martin proposing to Gina in that park, singing, what is it called? Never Felt This Way. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what else the man's done. And he's had a couple of bangers. He's definitely dropped some panties in his day. And like I said, he's here to bring love to the world. And he did in Martin in season, I forget.
3, I think? 3 or
season
4?
2, actually. Episode 19. Love in Your Face.
Yeah, and I'll never forget that either. I mean, that's a part of pop culture lexicon. Can't take that away from the man. He's very talented. I am just not a fan of him disowning his children. We don't condone bad fathering here on Happen in the 90s. This is not your safe space to be a shitty dad. You're not safe here, Brian McKnight. No.
Yeah.
Is it safe if I come in here? No. We just gonna talk about your one song, Crazy Love, the time you was on Martin,
That's
but
it.
you a bitch ass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
After that, after 90 whatever, 94, suck a dick.
yeah. Skedaddle.
Never felt this way,
Crazy Love.
man. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck that. I don't like that.
No, this is no place for absentee fathers. But in 1997, conspiracy theory premieres. A taxi driver with a penchant for conspiracy theories becomes a target after one of those theories turns out to be true. Unfortunately, to save himself, he has to figure out which theory it is. Directed by Richard Donner, starring Mel Gibson, Julia Roberts, and Patrick Stewart. Make it so.
Yeah, I forgot Jean-Luc Picard was in this as a villain, Steve.
As a
Which
villain.
that you don't get that a lot. This is Julia
No.
Roberts in the heyday. You know, she's getting roles. She's trying something else out. And this is a Mel Gibson in the 90s, which we still don't know about all the fucked up shit that he's into.
Not yet.
In this, he's kind of a lovable loser or not so lovable loser who's just he almost seems like Rain Man-esque for most of this, like the beginning of it. And he's also a peeping Tom, I think.
He's very possessed with Julia Roberts, and I get it. It's Julia fucking Roberts, but damn, bro, they call those felonies where I'm from.
I mean, he's outside her house, and apparently, because
Yeah.
he's so into conspiracies, I think he just goes to the police station a lot and like brings these things to her attention, or like, so he sort of like knows her but doesn't. But at one point early on in this movie, he's in a taxi eating a deli sandwich, just perving out on Julia running on a treadmill. And in the creepiest thing that I thought, he finds the radio station for the song she's singing while he's peeping, and he's like, there it is. And I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this for the main character of this movie. This doesn't make sense.
And you mentioned before taping that you didn't like the show or you didn't like the movie. Like you thought it was good, and then you had to watch it after a while. You're like, this is a hop of shit.
Yeah, it just wasn't. I was like, I just for some reason had like a really positive memory in this. Maybe I watched it when I was a little kid, thought it was like, but I do think, just like spitballing here, that I might have misconstrued this for that movie Will Smith did called Enemy of the State, where he's,
Which was decent.
I think Hackman's in it, and he's like being stalked by
Yeah.
satellites and shit. So I think that's kind of what I thought here. This, I don't even really remember the ending. This is what I where I got to before I fell asleep the first time. Mel Gibson's character, you know, he's into all these conspiracies. He's got a crazy apartment full of stuff. I think he publishes a conspiracy like newsletter or something. But he's doing all this shit. Jennifer, or what's her face, is like she's
Roberts.
some sort of a detective, or she's something within law enforcement. And then Jean-Luc Picard's like in some kind of shady organization of some kind too.
CIA.
Yeah, and what I got to right before I passed out was Mel Gibson's onto something. He gets captured by Jean-Luc Picard, and I think he's like some kind of a Manchurian candidate where like they start like flashing lights in his face, and like, you know, something happens, like he goes to kill the president or something.
Well, the film it's loosely based on the MK Ultra thing,
Yeah.
which I've heard about in recent years. You know, with the advent of Wikipedia and all of this stuff, and you know, I think we've had these kind of talks or heard about them in college about Skull and Crossbones and all these secret organizations. But yeah, I think this is loosely based on the MK Ultra.
Yeah, because he's clearly got like some sort of like switch that if they flash in like a bunch of lights and say something, I think becomes like a killer, maybe. But where I got to, it's just him like being frantic, basically stalking Pretty Woman, and just kind of looking like a lunatic in New York. It's like Taxi Driver if the guy was just like on it, like infatuated with Alex Jones indoctrination shit, you know. But I think the ship's passed on us going back to Mel Gibson and enjoying a lot of it because of that, just the shenanigans he's been up to in the future times. But this one's a stinker on the level of Twister, Steve. It's just not good.
You heard that? Racist Melly Gibson. Big mistake. Huge
And it was
mistake.
directed by Richard Donner, who, if I'm not mistaken, is the guy who directed Lethal Weapon, at least 1 and 2.
I think he directed the first Superman too, if I'm not mistaken.
You might be right, but it's just like crazy collection of talent. Just a god awful heap of shit, Steve.
Severe. And on that same day, Free Willy 3 premieres in theaters. Free Willy 3 The Rescue. 16-year-old Jesse and his old friend Randolph try to foil an illegal whaler threatening Willie and his pregnant mate. Directed by Sam Pillsbury, starring Jason James Richter, August Schellenberg, Annie Corley, and Patrick Kilpatrick. That whale has a family.
I didn't like Free Willy franchise, Steve. It made me sad for some reason. And I didn't make it to 3, for sure, for sure. Did they free him again?
They freed him again, and it just takes a orca whale with a heart of gold to change a whaler's mind. This time around, there's a new young kid, and he befriends the whale. And his dad is a whaler, and he doesn't like what his dad's doing. At first, he's naive. He's just being a kid living in a little kid's world, and then people around him smarten him up to what his dad is really doing to these whales. It's like, well, no, my dad, he doesn't, but he's got bills, and like, I need toys for Christmas.
He's clubbing
He doesn't
seals, Billy.
Oh, don't do that to me. And the little kid, man, he basically saves his dad's life because the orca is about to like just do some Steve Irwin shit to this man. And the little kid starts rubbing on like the, what do you call, like the outline of the ship. He's just like rubbing on it, and it's making that it's making that noise. It's mimicking that noise. And like the orc is just like, I'm about to eat the fuck out this man who's been torturing my family. Oh, what's that shit? Oh, the little boy that I like. Oh, this your people? Oh, okay then. Bye. And then it just goes off. And then like, so they have a come to moment where the dad and the son is like, you saved my life, kid. Guess I don't hate whales.
Guess
anymore.
I don't have a career anymore, son.
Yeah, that part.
Well, you know what? You get what you pay for, Steve. They'd already freed the son of a bitch twice at this point. I guess you got to get. This is the last time, Willie.
Oh, yeah,
Stop coming back, motherfucker.
And you got kids. That's too many.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing this.
Plus,
man.
I think you might have killed a human being. How reckless you're getting with my dad. So I don't know. There's a lot of anger in there.
You can't keep getting loose, Willie. Next time SeaWorld call me, I ain't gonna keep saving your ass. But that following year, 1998, Road Wild 98 is being aired on pay-per-view through WCW at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally in Sturgis, South Dakota, brother.
Bend the bike, Hulkster. Dude, why did they? I forgot that they got involved with biking so much, like the Sturgis rally so much, Steve. I wonder why that is.
It's a reflection of who they were, man. Like they always had things in the South. Like a lot of their pay-per-views were in the South, so like they catered to like the blue collar kind of like technical wrestling, like the same people who liked NWA as opposed to Vince's product. So like these are those people, the motorcycle riders, the Harley worshipers. And speaking of Harley worshipers, this is the pay-per-view where Jay Leno and DDP fight Eric Bischoff and Hollywood Hogan. And believe it or not, Matt, that's actually not even the worst match on the fucking card.
Yeah, I definitely got this. I got this pay-per-view, Steve. For sure, for sure. The one with Leno. Didn't his guitar guy also, Kevin Eubanks, make an appearance?
Well, he's who won the match for him, because when Hogan, like it was one of those referees distracted kind of deals, and I think it was Bischoff that got the DDP. Kevin Eubanks, and he's yoked. He's got like his T-shirt with the sleeves ripped off, and he actually could have been in the match himself, man. When everyone's looking away, he puts Eric Bischoff in the diamond cutter, and then Leno comes in for the pin, and everything Leno does in the mic in the ring looks weak as hell, even the pin.
What the hell were you thinking?
Yeah, dude. And Peacock cut this out, but I remember seeing this on WWE Network where Hogan is fighting Leno, and one of the people in the crowd yells out, "You suck! So does your mother!" But like doing it in, like hearing it in Hogan's voice was hilarious. But they cut that out of Peacock.
So does your mother, brother.
Yeah. So that was the main event. There was a match with Chris Jericho and Quasi Juice, Booby Juice, Juventud Guerrero. That was for the Cruiserweight Championship. And this is almost the end of Jericho's tenure, I think. Oh, no, he doesn't leave until 99, but they weren't using him right, man. This is one of the better matches, Jericho and Juventud. And there's a match with Goldberg winning the NWO Invitational Battle Royal. It was like 3 guys from Black and White, 3 guys from the Wolf Pack, and Goldberg. Yeah, and this is the peak of Goldbergdom because he still hasn't been defeated yet. He's still on the incline. He's got the belt at this point, but it's almost the beginning of the end for him. But yeah, man, Road Wild 98, just poor management, poor marketing. They don't even take anything at the gate for this, man. When I read up on it, like pay-per-views, this is your money day. This you get money from the tickets, from the buys and stuff. Like since this is at a bike rally, I think whoever showed up could see the show.
What?
There was no like legit way of like separating the outside from the inside. I don't think because it's outside. It's an outside event. So
Bunch of gross biker chicks flashing some titties in the background, you know, Steve, off camera. Hulkster! And then the blur's like down here almost.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh. Just gross fucking biker chick tits.
Just very nonsensical.
They all look like Big Van Vader.
Vader and Dick Murdoch. But any callbacks, honorable mentions, or takeaways?
Well, I'd like to honorably mention and just reiterate, don't watch Conspiracy Theory. Just
Please.
Don't. Even if you like Julia Roberts, it's not worth it. And I'd also like to point out that I started watching the Spawn cartoon because it is available on HBO or Max or whatever it's called. That cartoon goes hard as fuck, Steve.
It did.
We talked about it a little bit. But like the violence in it, it's like they don't show everything, but it's like a really good, like I would call it like a horror cartoon, like action horror almost. It's really fucking good, and I think it focuses on some stuff that wasn't focused on in the movie as much. Especially like there's like a fat detective, like a Jake and the Fat Man set of detectives that they follow a lot and stuff. But I'm in like 3 or 4 episodes in, very good. And it's got Maid Marian as the voice, so I love that as well.
And I don't even think it lasted long at all, man.
I think it might have lasted. I'd have to look. Maybe 2 seasons, maybe.
Yeah. That's something that needs to be brought back.
I think they're going to do another Spawn movie. I know Todd McFarlane has been talking about writing another one and then trying to like reboot that and get it out there, which I hate because I want Michael Jai White, obviously, to play it again. He could, but I'm sure that I'm sure they'll give it a shot. But that cartoon, even if you don't know anything about Spawn, it's really fucking good, and it's HBO, so they don't have to like censor anything. It's bloody. There's some other stuff. It's just kind of a wacky, wild cartoon. It's good.
Yeah.
What about you, Steve?
And just 2 things, man. Over the week, this isn't brand new, but it came out this year. It's available on Disney Plus. And I saw Jim Henson Idea Man. It's directed by Ron Howard, and it basically gives you the whole story on Jim Henson, his life, his career, his impact on the world, man. And growing up, he's one of my idols. He's one of my heroes, man. Like I feel like him and Vince McMahon, they're on like a peer higher than others. But yeah, it's worth looking at if you're a fan of not just the Muppet stuff, but any of his creations, the Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, or dinosaurs. They don't really mention dinosaurs, but if you've been impacted in some way by Jim Henson, it's worth checking out, man, because he's such a prolific person. And I want to give a shout out and RIP to Chino XL. He just passed away over the week, and he's a rapper that you don't hear about or you didn't hear about enough. Very talented. He was in the same circles with the exhibits and those just pure MCs, man, who could just spit at the drop of a dime. And going too soon, man. I want to say he was only in his early 50s, but a lot of people know his name from "Hit 'Em Up," the Tupac song, because he's one of the guys that Tupac says "fuck you" to. Chino XL, F you too, and yeah, but
I've heard of that guy for
R.I.P.
sure.
man.
I definitely have heard of Chino. I'm trying to look it up right now. He was only 50 years old. He's literally exactly 50 years old. But yeah, dude. I definitely know. Looking at his look, I know this guy just visually. I just don't. I can't picture like what song it was that I'm hearing. But hell yeah, dude.
I, you know what? I bet you've heard him more than likely on like a compilation song. If it was one of those albums where it was like a DJ album, like a DJ Clue or some kind or a Funk Master Flex album, he would be one of the MCs that they would reach out to. Hey man, get on this track, because he is like a true hip hop MC, and like those kind of people, like those DJs, they would love to have. He's like a Black Thought in a sense, not the same style, but like just your pure MC.
Well, rest in peace, Chino XL. Yeah, dude. He died a day after my birthday, but he was only 50 years old. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. RIP to the legend. But please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Please tell your sister to show some love, 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 love. Crazy bitch. Check out Food Show Fanatics with Matt and Kendra, as well as Crushgasm with Kendra G. Can't be Kendra B anymore. She's Kendra G. I just caught that. Corrected myself. Yeah, it's Kendra G now. And check out our guy Clark the Shark on podcast. So this is
Happened in the 90s.
Matt was the fat kid, Steve was the black kid. Life wasn't always great, but you know what was? The 90s. Happened